honeymoon.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase. Yeah.
And after 7 years, it kind of dies off and things become routine or kind of stagnant. And I said, I can't really relate to that. I never really happened to me like that. I don't know.
I will say we have to be extremely mindful about what we choose to believe. And this is where my views on beliefs is that it doesn't matter if a belief is true or not. What matters is if it serves you. And I feel like these days a lot of people, because we have a bit of a crisis when it comes to the science. People are questioning science a lot.
Welcome to another episode coming at you from chooseyourrelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on amazon.com. So today, I'm going to have a great conversation with another exclusive guest, somebody that I've been watching online for some time now. So like and share this episode and tell me what you think about the show. And any questions that you may have, send all your questions to the link below this video, or just send me emails at renegademoney@gmail.com, or just click the link below this email. So with that being said, my special guest today is an intimacy expert, certified Tantra teacher, speaker, author on a mission to help people around the world experience more love, pleasure, and intimacy. For almost a decade, her advice on relationships has helped millions of singles, couples live more fulfilling and authentic lives in and out the bedroom. My special guest today is Magda Kay. Welcome to the show. So, where you from?
I'm from Poland. Can she say from my weird accent?
Nice. Yeah, I've never been over on that side of the world yet. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to go one day. So how'd you get into this world of intimacy, romance, dating? Because we don't go to school for this. This is not like our dream job. We don't grow up and our parents say, "Hey, what do you want to do when you grow up?" So how'd you get into this world?
I want to start by saying I am very lucky that my parents are very tolerant and open-minded. They never minded this, but I do have friends who do similar work to me. And, often they have to lie to their family about what they do. So I am very lucky here. But yeah, absolutely. It's not like I was growing up and dreaming to be an intimacy expert. No. In fact, if anything, I was so shy around any conversation regarding relationships and sex. I was just like, let's just pretend the conversation doesn't even exist. So when I finally ended up doing this as work, I think I was the one, I was the most shocked of all people, really. How is it? How come? But I feel like, often it's the area that is the biggest struggle for us. That is also the area of the biggest potential, the biggest growth, and biggest benefits. So, the reason why I got into this was for my personal healing. So you could say I'm a late bloomer. I come from the household that didn't necessarily offer me a lot of examples of healthy love. So I just stayed away from love and relationships. I did not want to have anything to do with this. So I got into my first relationship only when I was 27. And one of the things that happened is that I wasn't orgasmic, and that was an issue. Before I could easily lie because I would see a guy once or a few times, but when you date someone and if you struggle to orgasm, you can't really hide it forever. So it started coming up. It became an issue. We started, drifting apart, and basically I lost, my first love because of that. So it served like a reality check for me that I really need to do something about it. And we're talking 15 years ago, something like that. So quite a while ago. And I just kind of heard Tantra here and there, but it wasn't such a common topic as it is today. So I really wanted to do sexual healing, didn't know where, didn't know how, but I had this strong intention. And I strongly believe that if you really want something, things will start showing up in your space. Like you're kind of calling them in, you're focused on seeing something. So the right person showed up. I learned about this school, then I learned about that school, and I just started falling into this. And again, everything I was doing for myself, my own healing, you could think like selfishly, that's what I'm doing. But while, healing myself, I realized that this really feels like my calling. And I don't know how woohoo you are and the listeners here, but if you're like into astrology and human design and all of these weird, crazy things, all of my charts in whatever system you look at, all of my charts say the same. I should be a teacher in the space of sex and relationships. And so here I am.
Nice. So there's something you said that was interesting. Now, when you were in a relationship, how did y'all even know that being multi-orgasmic was even important? How do you even know that was even a thing? Because, I grew up, and even still to this day, where I'm in North America, I don't even hear people mention that. That's not even That's not even important to most couples you meet. It's kind of like a lot of people just kind of going with the flow, and whatever goes, and if anything becomes a problem, that's when they have a discussion or blow up. So how did y'all even know that it was such a thing, and why it wasn't even a problem?
Oh, Lopez, thank you for bringing this up. This is so true. And I see this with my clients a lot. So first of all, it's like, no, we don't even talk about this. It's not a thing. Yeah. We don't discuss it. And then when it becomes an issue, then maybe I will talk about it. But still, so many people don't. They just assume, oh, well, it's either just going to be really bad from now on. Like we have this narrative that relationships just get bad after a while, that you lose desire and you just stop having sex after a while. And we just think it's normal. And we're like, well, okay, happened to me now. That's natural. What can I do? So you don't even talk about it. You don't address any issues. Or you finally do start asking questions, but it's literally what you said. It's not a common knowledge. It's absolutely not common knowledge. And I think this is one of the reasons why I love doing my work, and I feel so passionate about it, because if I think of what is like generally known around intimacy and sexuality, I'd say that maybe we like understand 30% of what human sexuality in its full potential truly is. And one of the aspects is this, being multi-orgasmic. So how did I learn about it? So, I mean, as someone who didn't have a single orgasm, it's not like I really knew what multi-orgasmic was. It was a fancy term that I, heard. Yeah. But I'll tell you, you know what? At that time, I had just moved to Malaysia. And I was working for this company, which maybe you've heard about. It's called Mind Valley. Now it's a pretty big company, in the space of personal development. Again, we're talking about 15 years ago when not that many people follow this. So I joined this company without knowing what they were doing. I got there thinking like, what the is this crazy place? Like I thought meditation was bullshit at that time. So it was my introduction. But the company was very progressive. Like they were talking about bulletproof coffees and keto diet before the world was talking about it. And we had these books in the library of the office by Mantak Chia, and the books were called Multiorgasmic Man, Multiorgasmic woman, multi-orgasmic couple. He has a series of these books, and that's when I actually first learned about it. And I read those books. I loved them. I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. I want to learn more about that. So I feel like, it's a bit hard for me maybe to fully remember 100% what happened. Side note, humans, we can fabricate memories. So that's what I think happened. But yeah, that's how I got introduced to this, through those books, through Mantak Chia. And then I was hearing here and there something about Tantra, and that's how I got into this. But it's true what you say. Most people have never heard of it. And many people think it's not possible, that it's just like a weird buzzword, but they don't think it's possible. Especially while for women, I think, okay, with women, we have this. Many women these days struggle to orgasm. So, that's literally my case, right? So if I struggle to have even one orgasm, I'm not really interested in becoming multi-orgasmic. I just want to become orgasmic. Yeah. So that's where women are closed for that idea. When it comes to men, unfortunately, majority of men doesn't last long enough. So then this whole idea, again, about being multi-orgasmic, it's again a bit out of reach for a lot of them, because they just how can I last longer? So I think that people think that this idea of being multi-orgasmic, it's a bit like becoming a billionaire, when first I just want to make 100K, But what people don't realize is that if you opt for that $1 billion, chances are you're going to learn, you're going to end up being a millionaire. So it's a little bit here as well. If you focus on becoming multi-orgasmic and you do practices for that, you can kind of jump over a lot of issues that you currently have in your intimate life.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many problems a lot of couples have when it comes to intimacy. I didn't believe it. I'm like, is it that bad? I'm like, my goodness. I'm serious. When I was in my 20s.
What kind of things did you hear that shocked you the most?
Like people are faking it. I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like they said, yeah, why do you think all the bars is full after work? I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of men faking it?
Yeah. I'm like, that's where that was the first time I heard that from a man. He said, yeah, I gotta have a couple of drinks because she wants to do something, and I'm like, what? Is it like a job or a chore? What happened? And I used to ask questions like, what happened? What led to this the way it is now? And they said, well, a lot of things happened. The kids came, or she picked up some weight. I ain't attracted to her, anymore because of the weight gain, or she let herself go, and all kinds of stories. So the alcohol and the drug use is kind of a way to, I guess, kind of be out of your mind. So you don't have to be fully yourself, because if they were fully themselves, they wouldn't be able to go through the motion. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think what you said here. It's unfortunately the case for many couples. Like you use the word chore, that sex becomes a chore. So I often, when I work with couples, that is a common issue. Usually one of the partners wants sex more or misses sex more, and the other person feels the pressure, so they're just like, oh my God, I need to have sex. And then the partner that's missing sex, they can feel it, so now they feel guilty for initiating or asking for sex. And then when they do have sex, it's because they think oh my God, we haven't had sex in a month or so, we should have it. And yeah, it's just with that attitude, even I wouldn't enjoy it. It's so how can you expect to have a good sex life if that's the approach? But I think what you said about going out and drinking, even using drugs, all the ways how we numb ourselves, and that is literally the opposite of what we need to do. Because what we need to do is be super honest and vulnerable. That's the definition of intimacy. Because intimacy, at the beginning, yes, we're all super excited and we cannot wait to, get the clothes out of our partner and just have, we could basically spend a few weeks, at the beginning of a relationship just in the bedroom. But then desire changes. So when there's more love and more familiarity, desire comes more from the heart rather than from the genital space. But the heart requires us to be honest, right? It's to take off the mask and just be myself. And if I, for example, feel that I'm not attracted to my partner, which, by the way, it happens often for men. They say, yeah, like I'm not sexually attracted to her, like physically, I'm not attracted anymore. But can you imagine having this conversation? Like, it's super scary, but if you can have this conversation, like, if you know how to have it, I mean, we're not talking about attacking or upsetting your partner, but if you can have this conversation in an open, loving way, it opens so much space. Well, first of all, for some changes, that maybe would really benefit both of you, but also open space for just being like honest with each other. That is what opens intimacy and then brings back desire for sex. And that's literally what people avoid.
Yeah, man. It's I think a lot of couples go through a lot out here, man. I didn't realize it until I was probably my late 20s. This is when I started hearing a lot of stories about and struggles a lot of couples have. And first I didn't believe it. I like, really? Because sometimes, at least this is just me in my 20s, I just assume that, hey, this couple, they're a nice looking couple together. Every time I see them, they smiling. They seem like they're having a good time. But it's not really like that.
Well, that is so common. Oh, you could say that every relationship has its own branding, the persona. And yes, sometimes we see couples and we think, like, first of all, that everything is fine. They seem so happy, great friends, but we don't see what happens behind the closed door. Sometimes it's also because they're such good friends and because they smile a lot. What it is that it kills the sexual desire. They've become great friends. There's a lot of love for each other, but literally love and desire are quite opposite. We have to play with this balance. So sometimes it's too loving and it kills that animalistic passion. You sometimes you could never tell what is really happening behind the closed door.
Yeah, because and then as I got older, I started hearing people say, hey, it's never gonna be the way it used to in the beginning. I'm like, I said, what do you mean when you say that? And they said, well, in the beginning, they got this, they call it the honeymoon.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase, yeah.
And after 7 years, it kind of dies off and things become routine or kind of stagnant. And I said, I can't really relate to that. It never really happened to me like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky.
I would say we have to be extremely mindful about what we choose to believe. And this is where, like, my views on beliefs is that it doesn't matter if a belief is true or not. What matters is if it serves you. And I feel like these days, a lot of people, because we have a bit of like a crisis when it comes to the science. People are questioning science a lot. So those who believe in science are just like, no, this is the truth. And I'm like, well, it kind of doesn't matter if it's true or not, because what really matters is whether it helps you live a good life or not. So yes, there's a lot of people like, biologists, etc., who believe that love is a consequence of the chemicals, and that simply after a few years we run out of certain chemicals, and that's why we don't feel the desire. There's another theory that it's exactly around 7 years, that if you don't have kids in that time, your biology basically tells you leave that partner because you cannot have kids with them, find someone else who's fertile. So there are all these theories, and I'm like, well, you can choose to believe them, or you can choose to believe that you can have amazing, passionate, full of desire relationship for as long as you want. And I heard this saying many years ago, you can be right or you can be happy.
Yeah.
So there is quite a few things that I choose to believe, which for most people, like, but that's stupid. I'm like, doesn't matter. It makes my life better. And we know, like, this is, we have the placebo effect, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy, that if you believe something, you usually make it happen for you. So if you believe that after honeymoon period, after 7 years, this is it, yep, that's what's going to happen for you. But if you refuse that belief, then guess what? 10 years, 20 years to get it, and you can still have great intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, because people ask, well, what's your experience? I said, well, seems like the longer we're together, it's keep getting better. I mean, that's been my experience. I don't get tired of being around people or get tired of, that's weird. To me, those type of conversations always been weird to me. I mean, how do people come up with this stuff? I don't know.
But the thing is that it really is. So I think a few challenges here, or problems, in fact, is that the society has never given us any tools to actually succeed in our intimate relationships.
No.
If you look at school, for example, so I did 1 year high school exchange in the US. So I got to experience a different educational system than in Poland. So I was able to pick a class, like pick different classes. One of them I was able to pick psychology, but psychology was an extra type of a course. But I still had to do my chemistry, biology, and all of those things. Now in Poland, it's even worse because we don't even get to choose such a thing as psychology. But I'm thinking, so I have to do chemistry, I have to do physics, which unless I go into like working in the lab or being, some sort of a scientist, unless I do that, I'm not going to use it at all. But you're not going to give me a single class on managing my emotions, like emotional intelligence, social skills, like zero, where everyone needs that. So society doesn't give us any tools to navigate our personal, intimate life. But it puts these incredible expectations. If you look at movies, because we are raised on show business, that's what we see. We have Disney stories that give us a certain idea of how a relationship should look like. And then we're not able to get even close to that. So then you start concluding that something must be wrong with me, because what I've seen is that a lot of people kind of think like, oh, but I should know it. It should be natural. Like sex is natural. I shouldn't have to study this. And the answer is like, well, no, actually, no. You don't, like if I think of my phone, right? Here I have my phone. It's like, I don't just take it and figure it out. I actually need to understand what to do. And in a way we've studied using smartphones since the beginning, of their existence. Why do we think that I need a manual for my washing machine? Like we think that requires some process of studying, but being with another human being who's many, 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 many times more complex than any machine, you think you don't need any preparation and work. So I think this is very challenging for people. And then on top of this, if you start telling them that, after the honeymoon, it gets bad, desire drops, that's normal, it's normal that couples fight, then people just, they're really left or they're set for failure.
Yeah.
So we really need to start changing the conversation, telling people actually what intimacy is, what relationships can be, and start giving them some tools. Yeah.
A lot of this has to do with how a lot of people grew up. And there's a lot of shame, religion. You throw religion on top of it. And people just they just assume that the other person should know. I'm like, I don't know about that. Because, I came from a household where my parents talked about everything.
So did your parents talk openly about sex as well?
No, they didn't. They would talk about it after you've done it. If it didn't have to be me even, it could be somebody else. It could be like my niece or my cousin or something like that. They'll be like, oh, that girl is, she's kind of fast girl. She gotta watch her, this and that. They would talk about it then, once it's done, but they wouldn't tell you in advance, unless I would ask, and then it would be like, then they would talk about it, but I could tell they didn't want to talk about it,
Yeah, same for me. My parents were always very open, but I don't remember conversations of anything related to sexuality. And I think my mom, when I was getting older, I think my mom really wanted to talk about it, but it was just weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, having that experience and, having talked to a lot of people, of course, about this, it is true that there are certain topics that, teenagers would rather ask someone else than their parents. Yeah. So having like, cousins, aunts, uncles, like some older friends. So I think it's totally okay if we're like kind of all discuss this. It maybe doesn't necessarily have to come from the parents. Yeah. But basically, if I think of it, the conversation in most cases is non-existent.
Yeah, well, I think for most people it'll be non-existent. It's so that's, and people will grow up and they'll just be winging it. Like I give you an example. In my 20s, I was just winging it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I
think most of us did, like 99.999%.
But luckily, nothing bad happened. Luckily, nothing bad happened. I didn't have any, horror stories. Like I hear about a lot of people, things happen. I'm like, oh God, man. Oof.
Yeah, but, to be honest, when I think of like, now that I know what I know about sexuality and our needs, especially for women, because it's a different experience for women. And then I go back to my first experiences and what I still see a lot of people say, I'm just like, oh my God, this just feels traumatic to even know about it. I'm like, how can we not be screwed if these are our first sexual experiences?
Yeah.
Like, it's literally the opposite of what we need. This is not necessarily my field, I would say, but I feel like working with young people, teenagers, like this is so important. So if anyone feels that calling to be educating the new generations, I'm like, please do so, because it's like, it's really needed. It's really needed.
Yeah, I always say, sometimes, I can just talk to somebody, have a short conversation with them, and more than likely, you're set up to fail. The odds are against you making it to whatever you want without getting help from somebody, because based on how you were raised and your beliefs, and you're not gonna make it. I mean, just your way of thinking, So I even had to come to grips with that when I was in my 20s, because when I was in my 20s, at one point, nothing was working. Everything I tried failed. So at one point I was like, I just want to find anything to work. I mean,
I didn't find it.
It was like when they say when it rains it pours, it was like that. Yeah, but I always looked at it like, if I could get my relationships were never bad, but everything else was bad. Financially, I was kind of like, I was moving around a lot, but I always looked at it like this: if I could keep my relationships intact, I would be fine. I just had to weigh it out and push through, and eventually everything would work itself out. And I was right. But you can't give up. That's the thing. I think a lot of people give up too fast.
Yeah, with this one. So, I'm all for a divorce. Like, I think it's great that people can get out of bad relationships. But I will say one thing: in the past, when divorce was not an option, because you didn't have a choice, you made it work. So we have even like arranged marriages. I love India. I spend a lot of time in India. I have quite a few clients from India, and I have couples, and I've seen couples that get married because it was an arranged marriage. Oh. And there's some challenges. I'm like, okay, well, is a divorce an option? Like, no, we want to make it work. And there are cases when it will not work. And then this is really sad because they're stuck with each other. That is really sad. There are absolutely cases like this. But, even if I think of my grandparents, even my grandma is dead now. It's just my grandpa. But when she was still alive, like they still respected themselves when each other. They, when they went out, like they're always, holding hands. And my grandpa was, walking on the side closer to the street, right, protecting her. So all of the chivalry that now it's mostly dead. So you still saw that, and I thought it was beautiful, because you're like, well, I'm not gonna get any better. Like this is the only thing I'm gonna get. So I might just as well make it the best it can be. And I feel, especially like our generation, us millennials and the next one, we've been raised with this incredible sense of entitlement. We were told that you are special, as in you're better than everyone else. And so we feel like any partner we meet, it feels like, unless it's like Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt, it feels like I'm settling down, like I deserve better. And the moment something becomes difficult, we give up, we move on. But I don't know if you've noticed this, and if maybe that's been your experience or observation, but I find that in general, our generation just gives up too fast. Like, because we're not used to hard work. We're used to that things should be easy. The moment they get difficult, we're out. And so we give up on relationships way too fast. That's my opinion for that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are entitled, and I think it has to do with the environment, the media, how people were raised. It seems like if you have a disagreement with somebody, they're pretty much ready to be like, well, screw you then. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I'm like, well, we can agree to disagree. So I think there's a lot of people kind of like, for whatever reason, they just think that everything is it's not supposed to be difficult. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of people just like that. I don't know. I think it's a combination of reasons why that happened. But yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I will say that we are in difficult times when it comes to dating. And so even if someone like has the ability to show up well in a relationship, we are operating in a much limited market, as in, many people are simply not equipped. They don't have the skills and the capacity at the moment to be in a like healthy relationship. Absolutely. I don't know when it's going to change, how it's going to change. But I also feel that we are feeling the price of it more and more. We have dating apps and they have helped some people, but a lot of people say that they have caused more issues than they actually have helped us, because we're trying to we're bypassing the actual issue. And when we do it, we usually make the issue even worse, right? So I think people are realizing that this is really not okay. Like, we have this pandemic of loneliness. We see what's happening worldwide about, women not being able to have a child. They want to, but they just cannot meet someone while they're still fertile. Men getting angry at women because they feel like, women are too masculine and that you don't have space for a man. It's like we start fighting and arguing because both parties feel hurt. They feel the price of what's happening. But for now, we just blame the other side. And I think that's the problem. We need to finally understand that it's not the fault of the other. We have co-created the situation. And so the only way to change it is by co-creating a new reality. But you can't force anyone to love you. And I think like women are hoping that we're gonna offend men so much that they will finally show up better. And men also, we're gonna put women down so much that they will finally show up better. That doesn't work.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people I have an open door policy.
Say it again.
I have an open door policy. People can leave if they want to leave for whatever reason. Because the reason why I say this is because I don't want anybody to be around me that don't want to be around me. I don't want people to feel like they're forced, they're stuck, they don't have a choice. I'm like, hey man, if you gotta leave, hey man, take care of yourself, man. I wish you well. Because as I've gotten older, some people fall off, some people just drift off, and some people just stop talking. Some people don't call you no more, and they don't necessarily it might not necessarily. You might didn't do anything wrong. You know, some people just start hanging with different people and they go their separate ways, and that's okay. I had a problem with that when I was younger, because I looked at it like, these people that I've met, I want to be friends with them forever. I want to stay connected forever, right? But in real life, it just doesn't work like that, you know?
I think, sorry, go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to this one that I think, I've been like on both sides of that. I've been a nomad for, I guess at this point, most of my life. So, you know, I live for a few months or like a year or 2 years in one country. I meet a lot of people, then I move somewhere else. So it's really difficult to maintain friendships like this, because my group of friends changed so much. And then also, wherever I am, I prefer spending time with the people who are physically there. So I don't have so much time to maintain online friendships. And I also don't want to be spending so much time online when I can spend offline time with people. So I get this, and I get that we naturally drift a bit more apart. And yet still, let's say if I speak to you once a year, like it's like, you know, we're still besties. But I will say that there have been situations when I connected with someone, and for me it was an important relationship, like an important friendship. I feel like I invested and I wanted that person to be more present in my life. And you know, with the physical distance, I realized that it wasn't really reciprocated. Because, you know, I kind of have this rule. It's if we are like friends in one country, that still doesn't mean anything. But if we're friends in two different countries, like if we, let's say, live together in Thailand and then maybe in the US, and if we're friends in two different places, it means that we are actually friends versus we have simply something in common, that we became friends because we have things in common, right? Because the moment you don't have things in common, the friendship will, you know, disappear. And we have tons of friends like that. That's okay. But of course, we want to keep some closer relationships, and you have this hope that that friendship will survive regardless of your physical location. So there have been, I will admit, a couple of instances when I really wanted to be in a closer friendship than the other person. And in the end, it was painful that it wasn't reciprocated. And even there are some cases when I actually chose to let fully go of the friendship because I felt that I had expectations. I was almost like getting a bit anxiously attached to the person. And because I could see that I wanted more than the other person, and that was too painful. So I just, okay, at this point, we're just acquaintances.
Yeah.
You know? Like I cannot do this, like sometimes we're intimate, like, and I mean not sexually, I mean like with friends. But I feel like I cannot do it. So we're just acquaintances. It means I'm not gonna make an effort for you. If you reach out, I'll respond, but you're not gonna get the same effort from me as people who have invested in me more. So I feel like sometimes this can be painful, you know, but it's like any relationship, you know, if expectations are different for the relationship, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I can relate to that. You know, it's like, and sometimes, you know, people go through things sometimes, like personal situation, or maybe something might be going on with them just as an individual sometimes. So a lot of people, maybe they want to reach out more. Maybe they would like to be close to you, but they're not really in the head space and the mental space to be there. You know, so that happens as well. You know, of course, it took me years to, you know, to realize and get to that point or whatever. You know, so.
And you know, I think what's helpful here, it's you know, we all have ego, and we all, you know, are afraid of rejection. And so what helps a lot is just have this practice of not assuming the worst. Because let's say if I have someone I either just like, maybe even like I'm attracted to them, or I like someone as a friend, and if they don't reach out, like initially, you know, with me, for example, where my thoughts would normally go is like, oh my God, they don't like me. You know, it's like something negative about me. And so then I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to reach out to them, because now I'm like 100% sure I will get rejected, because the story or the explanation that I chose for why they are not messaging me is, you know, something negative. And again, that's about choosing the beliefs regardless of what's right. But if you assume that the reason why they haven't reached out is because they're very busy, or maybe because, like, this is kind of what I've been practicing, just assuming that everyone really, really wants to be my friend. Every man really, really wants to date me. They're just shy. They're just shy, and they're like, oh my God, I wish that Magda liked me. I wish that she wanted to talk to me. So I just make this assumption. And so if someone hasn't reached out to me, I reach out to them. And I'll do it a few times. And if I don't get a response, then I let it go.
Yeah.
Right? Then I let it go. But if I reach out and in return, I get a lot of like, oh, I'm so happy you're messaging. Yeah, I would love to meet you, etc. Then I don't even have a big problem with being the one who always initiates this, as long as I get this feedback. But if I don't, then, even if someone is going through something in their life and I reach out once and then twice, and the third time, and I still don't get feedback, then I let it go. But usually if someone is going through something bad and you reach out, they're happy that you reached out, and they'll open up and they'll tell you what happened. I'm like, oh wow, okay, thank you for telling me. Yeah, I'm so happy I messaged you because I had no idea you were going through these things. So I think this assumption, just assume everyone really wants to be your friend until proven wrong. I would say like this.
Yeah, I agree.
Until proven wrong.
I agree. And the thing about being meeting people, being in an online space, I always tell people it's really the hardest way to meet people, in my opinion. Because it didn't used to be, it's not the way it used to be like 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, first off, online dating or just meeting people online, it wasn't a lot of people online. That's the first thing. And it wasn't like no catfishing or no ghosting, and things were I'm not gonna say
also no fake online profiles.
No, you really don't know who you send an email to. You don't know if they're a troll, or you don't really know if it's them for real in the pictures. So I always tell people, man, I can show you how to meet people online, but that ain't really the easiest way.
I personally, and I offer relationship coaching, and I know a lot of people want this advice, but I personally, I don't use dating apps, and I don't personally recommend them. I think, like, for me, it becomes like a job application. And in most cases, you really do judge someone based on how they look.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
for me, I have never started a relationship because I saw someone, I'm like, oh, they're hot, boom. No, I was around that person. And look, I think there was only one case when I saw the guy, the moment I saw him, I was like, wow, he's really hot. And then we dated for a little bit. Apart from that, every other person I ever dated, when I first saw them, not impressed in a way, but then I got to know them. And I became attracted to them through knowing them. It's interactions, their energy. So for me, the attraction has always grown on me. So I have absolutely no idea how people can do apps. I cannot do apps because how do I know?
Oh.
And like I feel like I just love getting to know people. And then if some of those connections turn into a romantic relationship, great. But I don't know. I just like kind of organic meeting, with people. Like, I don't meet you because it's like I'm on purpose looking for business partners, or I'm on purpose looking for, people who work in TV because I want to be in TV. It's like we're open, right? It's like we just live our best life, and living our best lives, we meet the best people, and then they end up playing different roles in our lives. But this, I think, just meeting people with a very strict idea of what I want this person to be in my life, I feel like it just feels weird. I mean, I'll say this. I quite often, I used to get these comments on my YouTube videos that when they said like, oh, you overthink sex. And I'm just like, no, I don't, because most of us have really bad sex. But at the same time, I think you're overthinking dating. Like, you've turned it into an app. Dating, actually meeting people, what dating truly is, meeting people, that actually is natural. As in, like, we're social beings. So I don't think we need an app to meet people. I think we're bypassing the issue, which is, the fear of being vulnerable, fear of connecting. So apps don't solve it. So, but it's just if someone, has been successful on the app, that's good for you. I just personally don't like them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. It's
Have you ever used any dating apps?
Oh, many times. Yeah, many times. Yeah, it's like I said, there's some that's okay, some better than others, but it's the same type of things you have to deal with on all of them. Some have fake profiles, some people are just workers on the profile, on the website or the app. Some people are catfishing, but it's always, keep this in mind. Most people on these apps, on these websites, are never going to meet anybody. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I got a good, once I heard this good piece of advice, and I think people who have been good with the apps, they have this approach that I want to get off the app as soon as possible. That means let's get on a video call, let's meet in person. If it's just chatting, this is like window shopping. It doesn't actually get you anywhere. It's sort of like busy for the sake of busyness, right? Like, oh, I'm dating for the sake of dating, but you're not actually meeting anyone. So yeah, absolutely. I see that.
Yeah. So how'd you get, first of all, what made you want to teach other people Tantra and about intimacy? Because, it's one thing for you to be good at it and have your experiences, but what would make you say, hey, I can teach other people to do this?
I've always been a teacher. So there are like specific profiles, when you can say like, oh, I've always been good at this and that. I'm like, actually, what I've always loved doing and been really good at is being a teacher. Now, I don't mean like a school teacher. I mean, basically teaching something. And I quite often joke that I can teach anything. Like, what I teach is secondary. The core is that what my, I can say it, soul purpose, my life mission, whatever, my zone of genius, whatever you want to call it, it's teaching. It's teaching. So that means I love recording videos on YouTube. I love giving public talks. I love giving workshops. I love coaching and consulting. Literally, that has always been like the most fascinating, fulfilling thing for me. What I teach, that is almost like secondary. But like I told you before, with my personal life, my personal experience or, healing journey, I got into this environment, and so I was already coaching people. I started with like business coaching, then I moved to life coaching, then I started exploring a bit of femininity coaching and some alternative healing practices. And so then the more I was going into Tantra and sacred sexuality, that was impacting what I was coaching on. And eventually, like, I think what I teach now, I think I fully got that about 7 years ago. So it was evolving and transforming, and finally it settled on that. And I think, there's probably one of the aspects is also the age. I'm 38 now. So it was basically like when I turned 30 or like my early 30s, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I think that's kind of normal that in our 20s, we're still exploring. So I kind of knew I want to teach. I thought in the past I want to do trainings in corporations, So I knew I wanted to train and coach and teach. But what I was coaching on just came because I was so deeply immersed in that world, and I think was just very available. But like I said, I started getting incredible feedback that it is really the right thing for me to teach. I think, I think this is also how we know what is good. We have this good feedback. So I was getting like, remember like even being with my friend and just kind of like touching each other's arms. And he said like, wow, Magda, you have such incredible, like loving, conscious, present touch. Like you should be doing this for a living. And I was offering like these different tantric and healing massages and doing a lot of hands-on sessions with clients. And I was like, yeah, I actually see this. You know, I've had clients like cry in sessions, feeling like, Jesus, Magda, like you touched my soul. So when you get feedback like that, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I have a similar experience. I always tell people, I never wanted to do any of this. I never thought about it. I kind of like, you know, of course, I was doing videos a long time ago, but I never thought about teaching anybody anything. I never actually, you know, because, you know, there's a lot of people that come online and say, hey, you know, I'm going to create a course, a digital course, a video course on whatever, right? I wasn't one of those people. I came online, I started the channel, I was just having fun, enjoying my life. I was going to conferences, meeting people, making money, just living my life. But I never said, hey, on my next channel, I'm gonna start talking about dating and relationship. No, I never wanted to do it. And I never said I want to write a book. I never wanted to do any of this stuff. What happened is my friends that I was in the Navy with at the time said, hey, you need to write a book on this and talk about the stuff that we did when we were in the military together and talk about the places we travel and all that stuff. They said, hey, you should put it on paper instead of putting it in the video. But I never thought it was such a big deal, you know, because, and as I got older, people say, hey, man, you've been to Thailand? Man, I always wanted to go there. I'm like, okay. And then I had an older guy tell me, he said, man, you're being arrogant. I said, why do you say that? Because you act like everybody's been to where you've been to, but they ain't never done it. They want to go to some of the places you've been to, but you act like it's normal. I'm like, well, I never looked at it like that. I just looked at it like those experiences just happened to be a part of my journey in life, but I didn't ever look at it like I'm so different than anybody else. He said, you're being arrogant. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So do you find that, I'm curious, do you find that now that it's easier for you to share your personal life and your personal stories? Like, do you have this idea that, oh, this is actually of value that people want it? Do you feel like you've made this shift to share more?
Yeah, now I do. But in the, like 10 years ago, no. 10 years ago, I was kind of like, hey, man, what's the big deal? You know, if you want to go to Mexico, you can go to Mexico. I've been there, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. I mean, if you want to go, you know, to me, it wasn't like a big deal, you know, to me until I started meeting more and more people. And then I was like, oh, okay, you know, people don't get out as much, you know, and, you know, so I started to open up and, you know, tell my story, and things kind of just evolved from there.
Thank you so much for sharing it, because I think this is a little bit where I am. For most of the time, I just shared good content because I felt like, who cares about me? Like, it's not about me. I have really good content for you. Let me share that. Even, you know, when I would start a workshop, when I taught as a guest somewhere, so people didn't know who I was, right? If I was doing some webinars, like I wouldn't even introduce myself because I felt like I don't need to tell you what I've done. What you need to know is that you know, if you get great value today, that already speaks, you know, about who I am. And I think it's exactly what you said. It's like when I think of, you know, my life, I'm like, yeah, what's the big deal? Like, just normal. Yeah, I did this. I didn't do this. Like, whatever, right? It's like, it's not a big deal to me. And then you realize that it is a big deal to other people.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's a bit of like a new path for me that I'm still trying to figure out. But I have started sharing more about my personal life on Instagram and on YouTube, and it had tremendous response from people. And a lot of people were also saying, it's like, wow, I had no idea you went through all of this. And I'm just like, and again, I'm like, yeah, not a big deal. But I'm, the word, what you said, you're arrogant, right? I'm learning that, yeah, it's not a big deal to me, or maybe it's not a big deal to me anymore, but it's important. Like maybe I was given these experiences not for myself,
Yeah.
Maybe those experiences happened to me for other people, but I'm still learning this. And I feel like there's a part of me which is like, why would I talk about myself? That's selfish, and it's like the me show. Yeah. So I think I'm trying to find the balance, like how to share my stories that also feels aligned to me. I think it's fascinating. Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
I think because there's a balance, because when I go back home, I'm just nephew to my aunt. I'm just cousin Lo. We don't talk about me traveling anywhere. We don't talk about me being on the internet, me writing a book. We don't talk about any of that stuff. They just love me for me. That's it. When I go back home, we don't talk about any of that stuff. They say, how you doing? You hungry? Come on in. That's it. But outside of me being at home, out here, people, they want to hear my stories and my experiences or whatever. So it took me some time to get there. It takes time.
Yeah. I think we chatted about this before we got on the call, but I also published my first book this year, and one of the things was that I shared a lot of stories that I had never told in public before. And it was interesting because I knew that when it comes to books, like, stories engage people. And I've been actually, I love public speaking, and I've done it for God knows how many years, but I've been working on this a few years ago of how can I incorporate more stories into my public speaking. So I think this whole idea of stories was quite alive. And so, I included a lot of stories in my book, and people who read it, they're like, wow, it was so amazing to read, what the author went through. It was so relatable. And I'm thinking, I really enjoy reading people's stories as well. I want to know what got them to where they are. So, but I think to be really fair, I think I'm still going through the process of learning what to share, what is important. And I'll tell you this. I think we'll probably all do this, because when we go through something difficult and then we make it, you're not turning into a victim. It's like, oh my God, this horrible thing happened to me. It's like, to go through it, you had to find your strength. And so when you found your strength, you're like, yep, it's done. I'm not going to cry over it. And in a way, this strength that you had to find makes you forget about the fragility of the event.
Yeah.
Right? So for example, I have a friend, and she went through crazy story. Like her both parents died. Her brother died. So it was just her and her brother at the end. I'm like, and when I heard, I was like, what? Like, you're a young woman, and you lost first your mom, then your dad, then your brother. I cannot even imagine going through that. And ever since I met her, anytime she gives her story, as in like the challenges that she went through, she doesn't mention that. She mentions the fact that she sold her business and then she went through a divorce. And I'm just like, why don't she talk about that? And she's like, yeah. Well, why would I? So because to her, she had to go through this. She had to find her strength. So she doesn't like connect to the to the fragility of what she went through, of how challenging that actually was. And I think for me to share some of my personal stories, I need to connect to a different part of me, a part that feels actually like when I'm proud of myself that I went through it. Like actually like, you know what, Magda, no, you did a tremendous job moving through that. Instead of like, oh, not a big deal. No, it was a freaking massive deal that you did that. I think what I'm really learning is to appreciate myself, and then I can share them, because as long as I don't appreciate what I did, I just don't think that it's valuable.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the point that I got to. That stuff that I went through, I'm like, that wasn't easy, but I made it.
Yeah.
You know, and plus, your friend, did she lose her parents at an early age when she was a kid?
Yeah, she was like a teenager when that happened. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine being young, you know, because I lost both of my parents as an adult, and I had a hard time. So being a teenager, I mean, if your parents die, what happens? Where do you live? Who is it? Your aunt, your uncle? Where, you know, that's the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, she recently published a book and I didn't read it, but as far as I know, she actually wrote about these challenges. So I think she finally got to that place as well where she's like, this is worth telling.
Yeah. Speaking of books, your book, No More Faking. How did you come up with the title?
Well, okay, I'll tell you this. With the book, it's something I wanted to do. So I'm curious how much of it maybe felt also true for you. I actually wanted to write a book for many, many years. I think I first started writing something when I was 17. There was a couple of attempts. And I got to the point when I realized that there's nothing stopping me. And it's not that I don't have the skills or that whatever. It's, you know, because sometimes you're like, okay, it's not yet the time to do something. You need to learn something. You need to do something first. And I got to the point when I realized that the only thing that I need is just to freaking make a decision that I'm going to do it and then go with it. So one of the things that I did, I actually hired a coach. I hired a coach because I wanted some accountability. I wanted someone to tell me step by step what to do. I self-published my books. I really needed this. And so he was also supporting me with the cover and the title. And I was thinking, what about this? What about that? What about this? And actually he suggested the title. And because I was like, which of these would you choose? And he's like, Magda, these are all like safe options. Like, I don't see your personality in it. And he says like, if it was up to me, I would call it No More Faking It. And I quite liked it because I think people are going to read it in different ways. I did the subtitle, which is, I need to read it on my book because I don't remember it because this one is long, but the subtitle is A Woman's Guide to Getting the Love, Pleasure, and Fulfillment She Deeply Desires. So I think this kind of explains what the book is about, but No More Faking. It's like, you're going to read it any way you want. And it's edgy and it makes you stop. So I feel like he managed to translate me into these 4 words. Yeah. So he really helped here.
Gotcha. So in a perfect world, who do you work with? And is it men, women, couples, or
clients, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the moment, I really love working with couples. And you know what? I'll tell you why. So I am currently single. And I know what I want, and I also understand with my lifestyle, I am not making it all that easy. So when I meet a couple, when I meet people who have found each other, I freaking root for them with every cell of my body, because I know what it's like not to have your person, you know? So when I meet a couple and then I see the couple that, of course, they were so in love when they got together, and then something started happening and they're, you know, the love is slipping away from them and they're not giving up. Oh my goodness. Like, I love that. I so support it. It's like, I feel like very often I root for them, maybe even more than they root for themselves. But I'm like, guys, what you have is so precious. So many people these days dream of meeting someone. You guys have each other. You probably don't even understand. You probably don't see how precious it is because right now you're stuck in all the arguments.
Yeah.
But being able to help them reconnect, that's so deeply fulfilling for me right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can have a couple come in, or I can be out in public or whatever, at a restaurant or whatever, or just be talking to a couple. I can tell, hey, they really care about each other. I can tell, you know, I can pick up on it. You know, I don't know if I have, maybe that's a gift or whatever. I don't know what it is.
I'm sure it is, darling. I think it is a gift, you know. Yeah. We have some crazy unique gifts here.
Yeah, I can tell. It's like I have people that are close to me. I'm like, sometimes I sit and I think, she really cares about me.
Mm.
I appreciate things like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because
I
that's
think it's beautiful to watch. Like, honestly, when I see like couples together being affectionate and loving and respectful, oh my God, this is what makes this world a better place.
yeah.
I love witnessing it.
Yeah. I'll be like, because you know, a lot of us we take things for granted sometimes. We act like everybody cares about us. That's not no. No. That's definitely ain't true. You know?
Yeah, it's true. I think, I mean, yeah, it's like, I think often you may have a great partner and we don't appreciate it. You know, there's this like transparency effect that if a person does something, okay, imagine your partner brings you coffee every morning, right? And then at the beginning, you're like, oh my God, this is so cute, right? Every time you get that morning coffee, you're like, thank you. Oh my God, he or she loves me so much. And then after a while, you stop noticing it, and you only notice it when they don't bring you the morning coffee. Now you're angry. It's like, what happened to my coffee? So that's like a natural process. We have to be catching ourselves when we do that, because that's what we do to our partners.
Yeah.
It's like we think that they should love us. And like, no one has to love you. No one should love you. They choose to love you.
Yeah.
So it's always a choice. So appreciate it, because if you don't, they're gonna stop.
Exactly. Yeah. So if people wanted to work with you, where would they go to?
So the best thing is to go to my website. It's magdakay.com. It's MAGDAKAY.com, because you're going to get all the information there. So you can see all of my services in person or online. You can find information about my book. You can get some free resources as well. So that's the best place. And you can also find me on YouTube. I post a lot. This is like my main channel. But I think website is great because you're just going to get like, you know, everything that you need. You can find there. And if you cannot find what you're looking for, then we have a contact form and you can simply reach out to us and we'll send you whatever you're looking for.
There you have it. Like, share this episode. All links will be found in the show notes. Until next time, we're out. Peace. If you like this video, share this video. And if you want to support my channel, click the thanks tab and leave me a donation. 2, 5, 10.